Imagine you're told you need to make a logo. It has to meet specific requirements and be cool, not uncommon things to ask for. But there's also one twist. You've never made a logo before because you're just a teacher starting a school, not a designer. And you're going to use this logo on everything from water bottles to folders to football fields. You start out optimistic, thinking how hard can it be? But your enthusiasm quickly dies out. After countless different attempts, you realize you can't really make a logo, but you don't have the money to get one made for you. So you decide to just take someone else's logo and hope for the best. In past years, this has been done countless times in schools throughout the country, but now those innocent logos aren't so innocent anymore. Have you ever noticed how many high school and grade schools have suspiciously similar logos to big colleges and pro teams? This practice isn't anything new, but recently it has become a really big problem. In 1925, a small high school in El Paso, Texas was created called Cathedral High School. The founders didn't have much time or money to make a completely new logo, so they decided to reuse Notre Dame's leprechaun and their slogan, "Fighting Irish." They didn't ask for permission, but they didn't think they had to, since they were 1,600 miles away from Notre Dame. So they didn't worry about it until 86 years later, when out of the blue they received a cease and desist letter from none other than Notre Dame. They demanded the school change the logos and words on everything they have ever put their mark on, from a jersey to a pen. With no money to fight back, Cathedral just accepted their fate and now are simply the Irish. But did that have to happen? The high school stole Notre Dame's logo, so they should have seen it coming, right? Well, it's not that simple. When Notre Dame made their logos, they trademarked them. Trademarks prevent original works like logos and phrases from being copied. But trademark law only applies when logos confuse a customer into buying something they thought was something else, not just whenever a logo is used without permission.
Coincidence? I think not!
Cathedral High School isn't competing against Notre Dame, so it's unlikely that anyone got confused. So now it looks like they're safe. But there is one big problem with them using Notre Dame's logo. If a bunch of high schools across the country keep using Notre Dame's logo and they don't stop them, then it'll look like Notre Dame is condoning it, and the logo will just enter the public domain, which means Notre Dame would lose control of where the mark can be used. Notre Dame does not want that to happen, because that would allow any ordinary person to legally sell shirts or anything else with the Notre Dame logo, and Notre Dame would get no royalty or fee. This gives Notre Dame the argument of what's called logo dilution, which means the overuse of the logo reduces its meaning and originality. This argument is pretty convincing and begins to tip the scale towards Notre Dame. But Cathedral High School has a strong argument as well. First of all, the high school has used Notre Dame's logo for 86 years, so many would argue that it should just be grandfathered in because of its history. The other problem with changing the name and logo is that it forces the unsuspecting school to spend tens of thousands of dollars on designing and distributing a new logo. When expenses are tight, it can be extremely hard to do this without any prior warning. This perspective leads many people to call the universities bullies because the weak high schools can't fight back against the buff and wealthy colleges due to their lack of money and the university's contrastly deep pockets. Unfortunately, Cathedral High School never fought back against Notre Dame, but other schools have found other ways to fight back. Glades Day School in Florida fought a cease and desist from University of Florida and was allowed to keep the logo as long as they used it the same way they did before. Also, social media brings a new defense as colleges like Wisconsin and Notre Dame have their name diminished by huge headlines calling them out. Ultimately, every case is unique, and it is up to the schools in question to find the best solution for them.